I want to talk about a very heated discussion that I saw online. And guys, you cannot miss this. Where one person complaining about people who bringing their dead back to Jamaica to bury. And you have to listen to it. So, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, guys, welcome. And if it's not your first time here and you have not yet subscribed, come on, what you waiting for? Do it right now. Just click on the subscribe button, then come right back and watch the video. Now, this is something I stumbled upon and it popped up on Facebook, really. And it's a reaction channel, so we react on the news, we react on basically almost anything, as long as it's real. Anything that you see on here is real. Now, it's about something very close to home for a lot of Jamaicans and Caribbean people. Whether it makes sense to send bodies back to Jamaica for burial after someone has lived abroad for many years. And you know, what some people believe is that if a person live abroad and not sending money home for their family because something about that was mentioned too, then they want to come back and be buried in Jamaica. But there are people in foreign countries that cannot afford to send things back. And for some people in Jamaica, this they don't understand. So here's the gist. One person in the debate criticized the tradition of returning bodies to Jamaica. He basically said if you left Jamaica ages ago, build your life in America, Canada or the UK. Why does it make sense for your family to go through all this trouble and expense to bring your body back? Wouldn't it be more practical and meaningful to be buried where you live most of your life? And of course, why would you bring back somebody's body when they never send any money back to Jamaica for family and people show up at the funeral that nobody knows? No, people were not having it. The backlash was intense. Many responded, and the response came from people who felt that Jamaica is always home, no matter how long you have been away. They talked about how burials is more than just putting someone in the ground. It's about returning to your roots, honoring your heritage, and allowing the community to say goodbye. Of course, there's a practical side to this too. Shipping a body internationally can be very expensive, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. There are legal issues, paperwork, and time delays. Some people in the debate argue that this money could be better spent on the living, or that the hassle just isn't worth it if most of your family is overseas anyway. But for others, it's not about convenience or money. It's about legacy. The idea is that when you are buried in Jamaica, generations can visit your grave. You become part of the land and history. There's a sense of belonging and closure for families, especially if there's still close relatives back home. This debate really highlights what home means to different people. Is it where you currently live? Where you were born? Or is it a spiritual thing? Some people feel their soul belongs in Jamaica regardless of where they spend most of their lives. And let's not forget the Jamaican diaspora experience. Many folks go abroad for work, education, or a better life, but they never fully disconnect from their roots. They send money home, stay in touch with family, and dream about visiting or returning to Jamaica when they retire. So, for some, the idea of returning at least dead is a way of fulfilling the dream, even if life took them far away. On the other hand, younger generations might not feel the same way. If your kids grew up abroad and barely know Jamaica, maybe it makes more sense for the family to have a grave they can visit locally. Traditions can change over time, and what was important for one generation might not be as meaningful for the next. I think this is a really deep topic. There's no right or wrong answer, but it's interesting how much emotion and history is tied into something as simple as where we are buried. For for me, I'd want my family to do whatever gives them the most peace. If that means going home to Jamaica, then go for it. If not, I hope they don't feel pressured by cultural expectations. So, let's talk in the comments. Would you want your body returned to Jamaica if you lived abroad for decades? Do you think it's worth the cost and effort? Or do you think it's time for traditions to evolve? Share your thoughts below. I'm really curious how different people feel about this. Now, adding a personal story, I want to share something personal that really connects to the debate. My own brother left Jamaica when he was just 17, first to England and then later to the US, chasing opportunities, like so many in our diaspora. But when he reached 50, he made a life-changing decision. He moved back to Jamaica and vowed he would never leave again. He was lucky enough to retire early and lived out his dream back in Jamaica. But here's the thing. Lots of people love Jamaica just as much but are never able to come back. Whether it's financial reasons, family obligations, or just the realities of life abroad, returning home isn't always possible. For many, it's a wish that stays in their hearts for years. When my brother passed away at the age of 59, he was living in Jamaica, the place he truly considered home. But he was taken back to the United States for medical reasons. And as a family, it meant everything to us to honor his wish and lay him to rest there. And his body was brought back to Jamaica. I know for a fact, if he hadn't been able to return before he died, he would have done whatever it took. We would have done whatever it took to bring his body back to Jamaica. Because for him and for so many others, Jamaica is more than just a birthplace. It's the heart, the roots, and the soul. Not to mention that my mother also died in the United States and her body was flown back to Jamaica to be buried next to my father and her mother. It was her wish to be buried in Jamaica. So why not honor her wishes? She's not there anymore to see what's going on. But that was her wishes. And that's the last thing the family could have given in her name, to honor it. That's why this debate is so emotional for people. It's not just about logistics, or money. It's about fulfilling a lifelong wish, honoring someone's identity, and reconnecting with family and tradition, even at the very end. So when people say it doesn't make sense to send bodies back to Jamaica, I understand the practical side. But for families like mine, it's not just a tradition. It's a deep personal fulfillment of someone's final wishes. Sometimes bringing someone home is the greatest act of love you can give. What about you? Do you have a story like this in your family? Or maybe you feel differently. Let's talk about it in the comments. These stories really show how important and complicated these choices can be. Guys, if you have watched the video this far, Make sure you subscribe, you like, you share. Hit that notification bell. And I will see you back here in my next YouTube video.